Merry Christmas to y'all and happy holidays. This poinsettia-inspired one took a little bit longer than anticipated, so we'll still get it out here in 2025. It's a long one, so get ready to settle in for some good painting time. I have started it off here with a large dot in the center of 24 karat gold, and I'm going around it with Venetian gold and probably a 3mm stylus, the dotting styluses. We're going to do the 8 dots around to start our design. And once you get your first couple rounds in, it really helps you keep your symmetry. So I did draw some guidelines to kind of help me out and kind of show where we were going with this. So we're going to take this and drag it out with our etcher tool for some fun teardrop designs. I was thinking this looked like mustard. I almost said Dijon. And these white tools are the Happy Dotting Company tools from the whole set. So she has her sizes on there. But these dots are considerably larger than your largest dotting stylus. So if you have the acrylic rods, or you can just push the paint around into a larger dot that you can pull into a teardrop, then that'll help you do this design as well. Sometimes too, if you look around your house, if you aren't familiar with dotting, things like eraser caps or ends of paintbrushes, basically anything you don't mind dipping in paint will help you make larger dots too. And this etcher tool is super handy for pulling out small detail work. I will give you a quick tip here. You can see how textured my surface is. If you use gesso or some sort of varnish ahead of time, it will help make things a lot smoother for you. I just really wanted to get started on this and didn't want to wait for that to dry. So I just grabbed the canvas and started going. So it takes a little more finesse to kind of fill it in, and you might see it a little bumpier around the edges, but that's just because it's not as smooth. But if you seal it first, that will help you, especially when you're dragging out the paint like this. Okay, so this is a nice butter yellow, and we're going to pull these into little teardrops in between the 24 karat gold ones that we have down. Using the 3mm stylus again, the largest ball stylus. So if you have the rainbow set, it's usually the blue or the green one. And if you're new to my channel, I bent my tools years ago. I kind of patterned it after Princeton's angled brush, paintbrushes. And I started bending all the tools just because I found it was easier for people to place the dots. So there's a video on my channel if you're looking for how to bend your tools as well. It holds more paint, so just be cognizant of that. It's going to take practice again for dipping and dotting to know how much to put on the tool when you're loading it. But I find it really helpful, and all of my classes have found it very helpful to be able to see where you're placing the dots easier. You can hold it more like a pencil. And then the edger tools still in my shop. I have a few left. I'll post all the links that I can, as usual, for y'all in the description, so you can grab some of these things if you were looking for additions to your tooling. So this is True Red from Decoart Americana. And above the 24 karat gold teardrop shapes, we're going to pull opposite. So you put your dot down and the tail is going to go up instead. So just for kind of measurement purposes, the first ring was about 2-inch diameter. The second ring that I'm going out into with the guideline zone is about 3-inch diameter. And then about 4.5 to 5 inches is the next one. So if you want your design about the same size, that's just for reference. And I'll put all this in the description as well. You don't need to have the etcher to do this either. If you have something like a toothpick, or even the dollar store for years now has had these, I don't know if they're embroidery tools or what they list them as, but they're hot pink in the craft section, and they have a big flat end on the back of it. But it does have sort of the needle point metal end for pulling out the paint like this if you're looking for something inexpensive to start off with. Okay, back to the happy dotting tools. This is the same one I did the 24 karat with. And we're going to kind of change it up here and do a little kind of arc into the base end of that first teardrop. So we're just going to curve it around and not quite connect it into the larger end of the teardrop. So I just want to encourage you to just play around with your designs. It just makes such a creative change in the mandalas, and so you don't have the same old, same old. Just try changing one thing around, upside down, fill it in more. Use top dots for highlights. There's lots of things you can do with a similar design and then change it up so drastically. These kind of look like little cherries. I'm not pushing down super hard. I'm just kind of grabbing a little bit of the paint and just kind of slowly pulling it in the direction that I want. And like I said, if you've sealed it first, it'll be a little bit easier because it'll make the surface a little more slick for you, and that way it'll be easier to drag out. So even a mechanical pencil, I didn't even think about that, like a mechanical pencil, lead, things like that will help pull this out. You might end up drawing on your piece if you do that, but just make sure it's covered well in paint. In a pinch. I'm not grabbing a ton, I'm just making sure that the end is covered in paint. And then you just keep it connected to the surface and gently just kind of etch it out to where you want it to go. So you can see I did the same design around the whole thing. Makes it more uniform, but it's just a fun change up to a design. Okay, so this is slightly larger for the dotting tools. This is the 6.0 of the happy dotting tools. You can see the difference even from the 5.5 to the 6. It's a considerable change. It's just the other end of the same tool. Now we're going to put our little dot at the top here. It looks little, but it's actually, probably a 2mm ball end stylus. And this is all, again, with the true red. I didn't change up the colors. And then we're just going to put some on the side here and pull that paint under the dot to just kind of fill in that space. So under the larger dot. I'm just going to tuck it in there. So one thing I will say is just be cautious. Either wait till the other dots are dry, which you can see mine aren't. But if you don't, you run the risk of them bleeding into one another. So either just be very slow and gentle while pulling it in here if you're just starting out. Or wait until these rounds dry and then you can come back in and it won't be wet on wet. They won't bleed into one another. So that's just a quick tip if you don't want your colors to run. Sometimes too, you could just work in another section and then come back to it. So you can see in a short amount of time, we actually have a really pretty mandala design shaping up here. Okay, so this is the happy dotting size 10, much larger. And so I'm out at the ring that I said was about 5 inches diameter, just to give us a good amount of space because I want to drag the paint down in the between these. I flipped it to the gold end, so it's a little bit heavier on the paint just because it's not as fine detail work and it'll take less time to fill it in. You can still do it with the metal end. It just takes a little bit longer. Similar to if you were using fine point markers as opposed to the broad markers. We're just pulling some large teardrop shapes from the 5-inch ring down in between those designs we just made. These tools pick up a good amount of paint, so it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to double dip and move it on over. You just pull from the dot down. You can see on this one I'm actually using the metal end, so either one works. Okay, so had some technical difficulties with the camera situation, but you can see I finished off the dots here around the larger ones, and I just wanted to kind of sketch out an idea of what I wanted to do with the petals here, because it's a poinsettia themed. I don't always draw lines, but sometimes I can use it to just kind of envision the design that I want to make. It makes my life a little bit easier, but also I figure for video purposes, that way you can see kind of what I was going for here on the next part of the design. Some of us are pretty visual people, and that way you can kind of see. So I just took a mechanical pencil and just kind of etched out some design ideas that I wanted to add on here. Okay, so this is the angle spot detailer I was speaking about earlier. That was the brush I patterned my tools after, and I'm just grabbing some Tuscan red here, and we're going to outline the top part of the petals where we just put down the larger dots, the larger teardrop dots. So if you're using the dotting tools, I would just use the smaller end of the stylus, the ball end, ball styluses, and then start at the base here and work your way to the top. So you're kind of walking the dots in the opposite direction so that the paint runs off your tool and the dots will get smaller towards the tip of the poinsettia petals. So with the brushes, you just push down a little bit harder and let up as you go to get the smaller dots. Okay, so back to the happy dotting tools. And this is called Garnet Red. It's kind of a sparkly, metallic, burgundy red, but it's called Garnet and it is glittery. And I'm just going to put some top dots down here. My studio in the basement is kind of chilly at times. You can see the center of the larger dots cracked a little bit. So these top dots will kind of help to hide the crack and the integrity of those. But also it adds a fun little pop of color change in the design to give it a little more depth. So you can see this metallic paint too, A, because it's chillier down here, but B, it's thicker. It does get a little bit of different texture to it. So it sometimes has like a string of paint where you have to just let the string fall off down into your dot. Don't hurry up and pull your tool over because you'll just end up with a big line of paint that flops down onto your canvas or whatever you're painting, which is a bummer. So take your time with these metallics, pull it straight up perpendicular, not off to the side, and then kind of pull it straight up and let that paint fall back into the dot that you just made. And these will start to fill in. You can see there's like a weird puddle, little point in them. It'll fill in once it just starts to dry. Okay, so I'm coming in now to work on a different area because I'm not really sure what I want to do on the outskirts yet. So I'm grabbing some white and I'm actually going to micro dot with the metal end of the etcher. Super, super tiny. So like the tiny, tiniest paintbrush, tiny end of this metal etcher, end of a toothpick. I'm just bringing in some white to brighten up the center here and fill in some of these negative spaces. It'll just kind of help our center of our poinsettia pop too. So in this close-up, you can really see the texture of my canvas. It'll calm down after I seal it at the end, but we'll come in here too, close to the center dot, and just tuck a little white in there as well. I'm not one to shy away from having negative space. It's just sometimes when you step back from a piece, some parts feel to me like they're just being called to be filled in. So, and this needed to be brightened up a little, in my opinion, to just kind of have your center pop. So, all right, now we're going on to the petal zone around the area in between where we had our larger dots and our garnet. And this would be your smaller dotting tool again. I'm using the paintbrush, but you'll be using your smaller dotting tools if you're using the tools. The Happy Dotting set actually has pointed ones as well. So you can put them point and pull out paint with the point. Like she's got ball styluses, she's got a whole mixture. It's a full set of helpful tools. So I'll put a link for that in here in the description as well. Angela's always been really thoughtful to makers and painters and thinking about the best options for tools and things to assist us creators. So, and she creates herself some amazing art. So I suggest you go check her out if you don't know who she is. So this red is called bright red. It's a little more robust and less orangey. Those are technical terms. But I just wanted to have a few different colors coming in here to offset them from one another. And again, if you're using the dotting tools, I'd just have the larger dots around the sides. So you would start in the center like this for your larger dots and work your way to the top to let the paint run off the tool, and then work the other way and go a little smaller back to the base of the petal. You can see with the angled brush, you can really see what you're doing. You can hold it basically like a pencil so that it's out of the way and you can see where you're placing your dots. I just find it a lot easier. And again, this is Princeton's brush. Our little poinsettia is coming along. So I just want to kind of thicken up these petals a little. So we're going to do another round of dots. Obviously not all the way down in because we used up our space in there. We don't want to crowd or overlap for this design. So we're just going to add to the top part, the triangular part of the petal at the top, to just kind of bulk it up a little bit. And it's the same color. You can see though, it's just drying a little bit darker. So the ones next to the ones that I'm putting down now are dry already. Okay, see in the back how stringy this is? We just have to be careful. These are another one where you're going to have to pull straight up and let the string fall down in. This is a metallic berry. It's got a little purple to it. And I'm just going over our sunny yellows down here. Just for a nice little shiny festive pop of color in there. And this is the 3mm stylus, the ball end, just for size reference. Watch the string. And see how nice that's looking? Okay, so you can see a pinkish difference in this one. It's called watermelon. And we're going to put a dot on either side. And we're going to pull it with our tool up to make sort of like an apostrophe. And we're going to do that around each of the petals, but also then we're going to put a dot at the top here and pull it down towards the center just to kind of complete that area here. Just pulling the tail up on the borders, leaving enough room at the top for another big dot at the top to pull it down. And this is the big end, the ball. Stylus is the 3mm. So while I'm going around like this, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for all your support and helping me get back here on YouTube. I only need 80 more watch hours to get back on the list for being a YouTube partner. And you guys are doing an awesome job of showing up in the comments, saying hello, sharing the videos. I really, really appreciate all the help. I know it's been a couple of years, but I'm super excited to come back and start painting on here again. And I also wanted to thank you for your patience because I know a lot of you are not fans of the short videos, but YouTube made that a requirement to have something like, I know, millions of views on there. So I'm working my way on those as well. Just disregard them if you don't want to watch them. But you know, if you do, it helps me get back on the channel with the longer videos too. So just something to keep in mind. For some reason, that's like the reach that YouTube is showing all those now. It's just showing mostly the short videos. So there's thousands of people viewing those and only a couple hundred on the long videos. So I don't know if it's people know what they're doing now because there's a saturated dot art market, or if it's just that we're not as patient as we used to be and we just like the quick videos. I'm not really sure of the psychology or reason behind it all. All I know is that's the new stipulations for coming on here. And I'm just trying to meet the requirements. So bear with me, and I appreciate it so much. So I like how thick those other petals were, so we're going to bulk up these ones as well, just with a little bit bigger dots of the true red that we used. Actually, I might have switched to the lipstick red on this one. You can see in the background the satin lipstick red just because it's brighter than the true red. It dries shiny because it's a multi-surface one. This is one of my favorite greens, this Peridot Metallic. And this is the Happy Dotting Company tools again, just a flat acrylic rod end. If you have the acrylic rods, it's probably the pink, like the 1/4 inch sized one. Yeah, maybe the 1/2 inch. But it's the 6 end of the Happy Dotting Company tool. And this is a metallic too, so just be cautious that you don't get that string. Okay, so I'm coming in here with the larger dotting stylus and bluegrass green. This is one of my favorites in the turquoise teal zones. But it's such a great contrast to the peridot too. And it adds a nice pop of color here to delineate where we're going to start our leaf area. So here, with those dots, we're going to pull a strand up each side of those petals with the lipstick red. And really just for muscle memory purposes, I'm just doing one side first, then the other side. So I don't have to keep going back and forth, back and forth. I don't have a Lazy Susan big enough to accommodate this large of a round canvas, so I'm just spinning it on my desk here. I know a lot of you have the larger Lazy Susans, so that actually probably would work awesome for this, but I just didn't spring for one of those. We're making it work with what we can, right? Now we'll start the other side. You can also use your dotting tools to pull the lines out of paint, just small, tiny end, and just grab a tiny bit of paint to drag it out. Just be careful because it will pull your whole dot like a swipe instead of getting this thin tail, which is fine. It just changes the look of the design a little and you're just making it your own. It's not a problem. Just kind of go with the flow of the tools that you have and what you can make work. Okay, so I'm going to do a ring of peridot around the peridot. And the only reason I didn't do it previously is I don't generally have a full design plan in my brain as to what I want to make. And as you can see, I didn't do a stencil, so I'm not following any lines other than the ring zones of each section. So I just kind of go with what I feel like the design wants. And as we go, we just kind of keep adding little bits of it to the design and watch it grow. So you're kind of growing with the design, which is one of the things I just love about mandalas and the go with the flow. So again, for the larger dots at the top, this is a paintbrush. I'm just pushing down harder, but with your dotting styluses, you're just walking the dots around. Dip it, dot it, walk it out till the paint runs off your tool. And if you're using the brushes, it's just push harder, then lighter for the smaller dots at the bottom as you work your way around. I started to seal from the center dot, but it's already starting to dry. You can see it kind of made a point peak in it. So I grabbed it from the palette instead. Just something to watch out for, especially with these metallics, is they do get a skin on them quicker, drying on the top. So if you're new to my channel, I generally try to talk things out because you can't always see everything. Like you can't see that I'm pushing down harder to make larger dots. And that's generally, I talk through everything that I'm doing. Oh, I just went to steal from that middle dot and it made a peak, so I went to the palette instead. I just figure y'all aren't mind readers, and this is how we grow together. I have lots of awesome followers who will interject helpful hints in the comments or things they've done, like the larger lazy Susan, or other things that are really helpful, or places they've found other tools. So I just encourage you to get involved. If you're new, get involved with some of these communities and just be patient and enjoy the process. We're all trying to slow down. Everything else is so fast these years. It's just chaotic and feels crazy, and we are impatient with one another. So this is kind of what we're about. What I'm about is slowing down, taking the time to learn the process and enjoy the process with one another, because nobody knows it all. We're all helping one another. So I'm doing 2 festive rings, festive green rings here around the peridot. And we're just kind of bulking up the leaf design area here with some really nice greens. I love this festive green. So you can see I'm holding the canvas with my finger, but what you can't see off the screen a little too is I'm using my own hand to rest my wrist on at times, and that will help steady you too for your painting. But I know there's a lot of people too who sell the wrist rests. That's a tongue twister. It's like a little piece of fabric over wood or rubber, or like a mouse pad over wood to rest your wrist upon, to kind of have a steadier dotting experience so that you don't feel shaky as you're placing the dots. Okay, now I'm going to grab some of that Kentucky bluegrass again and mixed it with a little bit of the festive green, and I'm going to do a ring or two around with that. Might just end up being one ring. We'll see how much I can fit here. So how are we all doing? You guys are doing awesome. We're more than halfway done with this piece. I hope it's been going well for you. And I missed being back with you all. It's so nice, like painting with friends again. If you're new or Even if you're older coming back, please feel free to stop and say hi in the comments. Also, let me know where you're from or what kind of designs you might like to see this year or what kind of things you're painting on your own. I also have a Facebook page and an Instagram. If you want to pop on Facebook and send me a message or send me pictures of things that you've painted, I'd love to share with you guys. It looks like we're probably only going to be able to do this one full ring. And we'll do something else along the border edges. Maybe grab some of the new paint markers and metallic paint markers and test them out a little bit. All right, so this is the oval dotting tool that I've been using for a while. And we're going to use this crystal metallic green over the ones where we just put the swipe with the Kentucky bluegrass. We're going to put this crystal green oval at the top. I'm just kind of holding it not perpendicular, you kind of hold it at an angle, flatter, so the flat end can make the oval. And then just kind of tapping off the paint, because again, this is the metallic, and we don't want that string. We want it to drop back down in our dot. I decided I had enough room here to put in another ring, but I decided to switch it up to pull in some of the rich espresso metallic. Just to kind of give it a little pop, cap off the leaves here a little bit. Plus we're going festive, right? We got to have a little bit of tinsely bling. This is also one of the benefits of using a paintbrush is you can load it with quite a bit of paint and then work your way around a piece where you don't have to dip and dot, dip and dot, dip and dot quite so much. But also the angled dotting tools will hold quite a bit too, because it's kind of got that bend and it will hold some paint extra on there as well. So this looks like I'm going pretty fast, but after years of doing it, you'll just kind of get into a rhythm. But if you're just starting out, just take your time, pause the video if you need, and just kind of go slowly and controlled, but in very little time. Your muscle memory after doing this for a little bit of practice, you'll kind of get the hang of it. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of come in here and do a little bit of fill work. And the reason I chose to do this, full confession, is the spacing is a little bit off. If I step back or take a picture of the piece and I look at it, some of the design elements are closer than others, like this one right here. I can only fit a couple fill dots. It's a little off kilter. And we're not machines. I'm not a perfectionist. We're going to just fill it in with some color here and kind of balance it out. And this is kind of where, if you're struggling with trying to be perfect or a machine or like the stencils, this is where you can be a lot more relaxed and just kind of go with the flow of the piece that you're working on. It does not have to look like a machine made it. It's handmade, hand painted by you. And it's a process of enjoying it and just having a piece come together. So don't be stressed. Just work ways into it that accommodate the kind of overall look that you want for your piece. So I want the greens to be in this zone. So I was just going to go in with the fill of the green. And now, as promised, I did kind of decide that I want to show off these markers a little bit. So they're a metallic peridot. Oh my gosh, this green. So we're just doing some little S curls, I call these, or scroll work, where you're just kind of doing, I guess it would be a backwards S, but you're just kind of tucking these little tiny, the width of my fingernail across horizontally. And we're just going to come in here and see what we can create for a border. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do different colors. So I start off just kind of doing a couple, 3 here, 3 there, and work my way around to just kind of see how many I can fit in the area. But also this would be where if you wanted to kind of come in with a pen or a pencil, a pencil or a chalk pen and just sketch it out ahead of time, you could see for your own handwriting, your own drawing, how much you can fit in each of these sections. Or you can just kind of wing it like this and see what fits. I might get 10 in one section, I may get 12 in another section. And so I'll just go on either side of here. This one I've used a lot, so it's starting to dry out a little bit, but I can't resist it. It's a great color, this peridot. All right, so I have 4, 5, 6. And I'm not going to go all the way over because some of my elements where we walked the dots out are almost at the edge and I don't want to crowd that. So I'll probably just kind of come up as far as I can go to the rich espresso and kind of tuck these in. And just leave that space there like that. And it will be fine. We'll kind of fill in here, working our scroll work or whatever design you choose for your border. A nice gold border would look nice with this as well, or white. That would be a nice contrast. But you can see I'm going to leave that space open on each of these. So we're just going to fill in between, starting with each one, 4, 5. And it doesn't have to be the same amount. Like I said, I might have 12 in one, 10 in another. So these are the ones that you have to kind of push down on the tip to get the ink going, the paint going. I usually get a little bit on the palette and keep the tip wet, and that way it works a lot better. But like I said, I've used this one a lot and it's starting to run out. This might be the last piece I can do with it before I have to get more. But you can see too how something so simple like just this little curl makes a big impact for a border to just kind of fill in and draw your eye to the piece. This is a good way to finish mandalas out to the edge. Sometimes can be a challenge. So if you just put a border on your piece, then that solves that problem of having to figure out how to make the design go all the way to the edge. So these are some paintbrush markers, and this teal is just delicious. It's kind of like the bluegrass green almost. So we're gonna do some just little petals along here sideways to kind of fill in the border a little bit as well. But you can see you don't have to dip and dot or push down or any of that with this to get the paint going. It's just automatically flowing into the paintbrush tip, and you can just go on your way working on your piece. They're soft. It does take a little work to get used to dealing with how big you want each one to be and how hard to press, because they can be bigger if you push down longer or farther. Drawing with them is a little different too, so there's some getting used to, but very little. And you can just keep on going right along working on your piece. And they dry nicely. They still are easy to varnish over. It is still an acrylic paint. Okay, coming in with the paintbrush, we're just going to do 3 little dots of that crystal green over the large oval one that we did. Just going to give that oval a little bit of a crown. We needed a little bit of a lighter color out here on the edge, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of white in between each of our petals of teal. All right, so this would have been, if you were using your stylus, is probably the very smallest end of the tools, just because we're just tucking tiny, tiny detail. And just to add a little bit of white to draw your eyes to the outer edge. All right, I'm just going to come in here with a little bit of a contrast color to that darker green that we brought in, the holiday green. And so it's just 2 different color greens for the fill work. And you could do more too if you wanted a little more depth or just a different look. I just kind of wanted to delineate this whole area as the leaf zone basically. So it's all green. So some of this looks quite matte as I'm going through, but after we use the high gloss varnish, it'll make a big difference in the pop of color on all of them actually. And it'll fill in some of that texture on the canvas, so it won't be quite as heavy and rough looking. So just gonna finish up the fill work in here. Okay, so I took a step back and looked at this and decided this negative space here in this petal just looks too black, too blank. So I'm going to go grab that really bright red again and come in here and do 3 dots with the 3mm ball stylus to just kind of tuck in a pop of color at the end of these petals. One way I find helpful to just kind of take a step back, or sometimes I'll actually walk away and come back to look at a piece to see if I need to add more to it before varnishing. But also taking pictures of it helps. So let's give these little elements in here a pop as well. Using that same bright red, we'll just come in with some top dots. It would be the smaller end of your stylus to just do a smaller dot here. We've made sure it's totally dry too, so we're just kind of top dotting on here where it's already dried. All right, let's take a look at our finished piece before varnishing. Looks pretty good. Nowhere that I missed or that I want to tuck in another color. Here it is completely varnished with Liquitex High Gloss. Nice protective coat. I might even add another one. You can see there's a little bit of texturing on the edges. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Look at that shine. I love it. And I hope you had a good holiday season. And I'm looking forward to doing lots of new videos with y'all. Please pop in, leave me a hello in the comments. Let me know what you might like to see in the future. All right, happy painting. Have a great day.